So the pandemic is finally over. But have we learned things during the pandemic that can have a positive or negative effect on our sales career going forward? For example, Zoom sessions. Are Zoom sessions really a replacement for sales meetings, that is, in person sales meetings? Hi, I'm Gene from Sales Adept. Let's talk about this issue. The Zoom session can be extraordinarily effective in a sales function, under certain circumstances, of course. So, what do I mean by that? Well, there are certain kinds of sales meetings where the customer has already basically decided on your product. You're the solution of choice, and they need details, technical information, maybe including with a group of contractors in order to do the equipment install or the logistics or whatever it is. These kind of Zoom sessions are really probably your best choice. Partly because not only do you not have to travel to the customer site, but all those contractors who may or not be able to even be there can join the meeting and ask you questions in real time without having to travel to that customer site. In this regard, this is probably one of the most powerful uses of Zoom in the sales function. In fact, I just did a conference call like this yesterday, and they work extraordinarily well. It used to be that we had to exchange this information by email. I'm sure that you remember. It's only 3 years ago that we had to do this. But email can be extraordinarily slow, can't it? Because people don't necessarily respond right away. But phone calls, which are also a pretty fast way to answer questions, were generally harder to get multi-person conference calls and to keep straight who the talkers were. But on a Zoom session, it's quite simple to know who's speaking and to have everyone join. So I say that this is an extraordinary tool that we should be using for however long forward. But what about the time when you haven't convinced the customer that your solution is best? Is a Zoom session sufficient? Perhaps, but I think you're going to struggle. You're going to have a much lower success rate making those sales, closing those sales on a video call than if you just go in person. I've done both. I've had a long career of having phone calls and email sessions and conference calls and Zoom sessions and in-person meetings. And I have to say that in-person meetings, at least for me, after I got really good at my job, became way more effective than any other way. And it's still that way for me. Now, it's probably true that over the course of my career, I developed a certain force of personality that I can project to my customers. What is this force of personality? One of them is simply my confidence. When you exude confidence, in every way that you talk to the customer, in answering every question right off the top of your head because you know all this stuff, it is a much different interaction that you're going to have with that customer than if you are giving a monologue on a Zoom session where everyone is mute. About 2 years ago, I had a Zoom session with an individual who was, let's call him one of the top influencers for a major corporation in America, who represented a huge opportunity to my company. In fact, it was a customer that companies who make equipment like mine had been pursuing all of my career, right? For 25 years, I had seen customers pursuing this company, and they always stuck with the same equipment. So this engineer was having an individual Zoom session with me. And because it was a single person-on-person interaction, it became as close to being an in-person meeting as possible because we really struck up a dialogue. As usual, when I'm in this phase of selling to a customer where I'm trying to give them value and to show them that my equipment has value and that the solution really works, I spend most of my time asking questions. I don't really talk about my equipment as much as I try to talk about the customer's pain points, what they're doing now, the equipment that they've got, their successes, that sort of stuff. And this meeting started off, with a little bit of a combative tone from the customer's point of view because he said, look, I've been using the same equipment for 25 years. I haven't had any problem with it. I think it's just fine, but, prove to me that your solution is better. Well, after something like a half an hour, 45 minutes, this customer was so excited that he said, okay, look, I just really want to do this. I really want to move forward with the first trial, but can I please have you present all this stuff that you've just told me to my entire board of vice presidents from throughout the country. There's 7 of them. I'd like to get them together in a meeting next week with you so you can tell them all in person. And I said, well, that sounds great, sure. But then when I got to the meeting and they all went on mute, it became me, Gene, giving kind of a monologue. It became me, doing the show up and throw up and leave mode, right? Where you basically blurt out all the stuff that you've got and the solutions. But because there's no interaction, there's no question and answer, there's no back and forth, the whole dynamic just really falls flat. So I found that not only is Zoom, as opposed to being in person, inferior, but when you have multiple people in a meeting, it is even far inferior to having a single one-on-one Zoom session. So maybe you have different experience, maybe you have the same experience. Please, write it in the comments so everyone can, read the comments and see, what the prevailing wisdom is. If you've mastered, selling by Zoom session, boy, I would really like to hear some of your feedback. When I'm in person, I spend most of my time asking questions and inspiring dialogue between myself and the customer. My intent, particularly if I haven't spent a lot of time with this customer before, or I haven't convinced them that my solution is the best, I really try to dig for everything that I can find out about what is working for them, what is not working for them. I especially like to go out and look at their process tools, their machines, and ask them how they work step by step. Stopping them, interrupting them to ask every step along the way. You'd be surprised, boy, customers just light up when you get them out there and they're showing you their machine and they're demonstrating their technical knowledge. They will tell you a lot. And as far as rapport building, it is so much better than talking about the weather or golf or fishing or hunting or any of these other conversations that we have in an effort to build rapport. When you are engaging a customer, talking to you about his knowledge base, his domain, his machine, wow, you can really have some great conversations. And as a bonus, it's not really a bonus, it's the primary purpose, you get to learn all about that machine. And once you learn about that machine, you can use that at every other customer from now on. That is a huge bonus. And there's this, it's like this magic that happens between yourself and the customer. When you get to the point where the customer is engaged with you on such a deep level, they kind of forget that there's other vendors that can also supply the same thing. If you build a credibility with them that is deep enough, that is strong enough, they just kind of decide that you're the solution that they want. And this happened to me many, many times. Now, it does help when you have really good equipment, arguably the best equipment, but that's not sufficient. Right? You have to inspire confidence in the customer that not only is your equipment better, but it will work. So can a Zoom session replace an in-person session? Yes, but under certain circumstances, right? But if you really need to be out there actually doing the really fun part of your job, which is convincing a customer that your solution is the best, in person just way outstrips any other method. So I hope that you have some insight into this. Please share in the comments if you've got either stories that you can tell about how this is true or how you totally blow my theory out of the water. I'd be happy to hear both because after all, I'm always learning too. And please hit the like button if you like this video and check out my playlist. I hope to see you on another video sometime soon. Cheers.